What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one I'm going to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about how on earth the market is looking after Nvidia absolutely killed it with earnings. I'm going to break down their numbers for you, then talk about what could play out in the market for tomorrow. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. The offer ends in just 8 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, guys, looking at Nvidia, this thing is currently at $512 a share at the time I'm recording this, and this thing absolutely exploded in the after hours after getting its earnings, and they killed it in terms of earnings, in terms of guidance. They did very, very well. So the question is, how will this thing move going forward? Will we see Nvidia just continue to push, or will this thing have a big effect on the market? So far, the market is just holding up very nicely, looking quite strong. But the real question is, why did this happen? How are the earnings actually looking? How was guidance? And so far, things are looking quite good. So I just want to mention that when we look at their numbers, they beat on EPS with $2.70 as the adjusted EPS versus the $2.09 expectation. They beat expectations on EPS. They beat on revenue with $13.51 billion versus the $11.22 billion expectation. That's a big beat on revenue. And what else is crazy about it would be the fact that the guidance for Q3 was an expectation of 12 billion, right? So we expected 12 billion for Q3. They ended up doing 13.5 billion just from this last quarter alone. So they actually beat what we were expecting for Q3 as well. So that's a very, very big beat in revenue. And now they raised their guidance not to 12, but to 16 billion. 16 billion, a big, big, big raise in guidance. They're expecting another strong round of earnings for the next quarter. That's more bullish news. So, right here, they approved a $25 billion share buyback. They've guided Q3 up to $16 billion versus the 12.5 billion estimation, absolutely crushing it. And their CEO Jensen came out and he said that the new computing era has begun. Companies worldwide are transitioning from general purpose to accelerated computing and generative AI, absolutely killing it. So this is bullish news for Nvidia. They have crushed it, they have killed it, and they have defied the odds. Now, what's important about this would be there were a lot of people shorting Nvidia, and there were a lot of people buying calls as well. I mean, we didn't really know that this would happen, so it was risky either way. But Nvidia is continuing to break all-time highs. This will have an effect on the markets. So it's currently sitting at, let's just look at this, $511 a share, just breaking all-time highs. It's crazy. This thing is on fire. This thing is continuing to pump, and this is going to have a big effect on the market for tomorrow. So, what do I think is likely going to happen for tomorrow for all these different stocks? Let me just break this down by starting off with SPY. SPY is currently at 445. It's actually gapping up. It's going to likely gap up tomorrow morning when it opens. We closed today in the just under like 443. So we're looking pretty strong in the after hours. What I think is going to happen is this, and there's one issue with the way the market is moving. We're pumping and pumping and pumping and getting very little downside on this like pump. We're just, keep going and going and going. That may not be that sustainable in a way where we're just hitting like new territory over and over and over again. So what I'm trying to say is it might not just shoot up and go higher and higher and higher eternally for tomorrow. It might try to push up a little higher, then end up getting a rejection because we're very overbought and start cooling off just a little bit, retest the breakout area in the 443.65 to 444 area, then bounce off that. Then we might still get a green day, but I'm still anticipating something like that. So I think the market's going to gap up tomorrow. It's going to push up. The overall structure is looking bullish right now from a technical standpoint. But here's the thing. Just because we look bullish, it does not mean we have to just go up and up and up and up without getting like any rejections. I think the market's going to be hitting some major resistance at the 446 to 446.5 area. We will see if this could break or not. Maybe we get a small little break above it before coming back down. And if it holds above 446.5, there is potential for 448 technically, but I'm just trying to tell you that I'm not really counting on it to get that high. We might get a rejection off 446, then come down a little bit to retest the breakout at 443.6, then bounce off that. because the market may become very, very overbought. So I don't know for sure, but I'm just saying that we should gap up like this tomorrow, right? The market should push up, and we're going to see if we could hold 446 or not. We have some resistance right here. One thing that's interesting is we just shot past 444 like it was nothing. That is a very significant resistance, and we managed to break above that. So I'm not 100% sure if this is going to play out, but I think what's going to happen is the market sort of gaps up. We gap up like this, and then, as time goes on, the market may get a rejection off like 446 or so. I don't know if we're going to break this. If we break this and hold it, then yes, we could remain more bullish, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So we have to watch this test. We could see SPY reject off of it and retest this breakout area. So come back down to 444, maybe a little bit lower, and maybe come down to fill its gap or something, and then get a bounce and then kind of trade between like 444 and 445 for the rest of the day, going into Thursday as we approach Friday. So we could see something like this. And could we sell off at the very end because of Jerome Powell giving a speech for Friday? That's a possibility. I'm not really counting on it to be that bad, but I'm anticipating a move kind of like this where we get this big pop, we kind of come down a bit, then we bounce, and we just see the market trade a little bit stationary as time goes on, see some consolidation right before Powell comes on. Powell's going to be speaking on Friday, by the way, so I'm anticipating a move kind of like this. But I do believe the market has more upside. It could push just a tiny bit more after gapping up, then come down and then bounce after that. That's what I think is most likely going to happen. For resistance, you're going to be watching 446 and then to 446.5 on SPY. If that breaks, 447 is on the table, and 448 being the more significant resistance. If it breaks down, you're going to be watching 445 as support right now because that's currently where we are. And if that fails us, the next level is going to be 444 flats, then 442 below that. We also have the breakout area at 443.5. We're going to be watching all these levels very carefully to see which way we end up going. For now, that's what I want to watch for on SPY. For the QQQ, it's almost no different. This thing is on fire. It is currently at 372, pushing up very, very hard, making a very, very nice move to the upside. So I'm going to try to clean this chart up just a little bit, get rid of some of these lines, and now just focus on what's ahead of us for the time being. I would say this. For now, we've broken above this resistance. And we're going to be watching this next resistance level, right here at 374. That's going to be our next level. And then we have this unfilled gap up here in this 375 area. That's going to be the next level, 375.25. And then for support, you're going to be watching this level right here. This previous breakout area, 371.65, is going to be a very important level to watch for. So for now, the market is still looking quite interesting. So we're getting this rejection right here at 372.8. For the triple Q, if we get this rejection off here, I don't know if it's going to reject off here. I would say that it might push a little hard to like 374 to 375, get a rejection and then come down, maybe retest 370, and then bounce off that and close a little green, but it might see some high volatility with all the data coming out. Now, I think I forgot to mention this, but we also have initial jobless claims coming out 1 hour before the market opens. We also have a Jackson Hole event from the Fed that could cause some like volatility. So that's why I'm thinking the market may kind of like gap up and push, then reject, maybe come down a bit, then bounce in a similar manner as SPY. I find that as the most probable move. But it really depends on if we could hold above resistance or not. If we hold 375 on the QQQ, then we could technically remain up here, but I'm not really counting on that. I think we might reject somewhere around there, kind of like break down, fill the gap very close to 370, maybe a little bit lower thanks to the Jackson Hole meeting. And then we might see the market kind of just rebound as time goes on. And this trade kind of like sideways as time goes on going into Friday. So something like this is very, very possible for tomorrow, where we get a push up and then a drop, then a like sideways price action. I'm anticipating that for the QQQ and SPY. For Nvidia, how is this thing looking right now? Let's double check Nvidia. I actually have it right here. Let me just grab it from here. Nvidia looks quite nice. Very, very nice looking break above 500, hitting all-time highs. Absolute monster. We have resistance at $520. We will see if we could try to break that tomorrow. We're going to be watching how we open. We're currently holding 510. So we're going to be watching this thing. Still looks very strong. Very, very nice looking trend. And we're going to be watching Nvidia try to hold 500 for tomorrow. So just be careful with it. We'll see how it opens tomorrow morning. But for now, it's looking relatively strong. For Tesla hit some very important levels right here. It actually reached this resistance and actually broke above it to hit almost 243, which is not bad for it. The resistance I had pointed out was around 244.5. That's going to be one important resistance right here. And I remember 245.95 was another one last time I checked. And above that, we have like the 248, 247.5 and beyond as some key levels on Tesla. We're going to be watching this chart carefully. Tesla might try to gap up and start pushing higher. If it holds above 242, we could see 244 to 245 possibly. There's a lot of chop around here, so it might reject very close to here, come back down, start cooling off to like 240, then get a bounce off that and just trade sideways. I'm anticipating it to come down though. It could even come down to like 238 and then bounce. Something like that, very similar to SPY is what I'm anticipating, a gap up, a drop, and then some chop with a nice pop at the very end for it to close kind of green. But don't forget to watch these levels. For support, we have 238 below 240. And then below 238, we have don't forget about 235 to 234. Once again, guys, I think it's going to gap up and push. Tesla's going to get another pop in the morning. And then we're going to see it. Hold on, give me 1 second. Pop up and push, get a rejection somewhere here around 244 or so, if not 242. Come down, retest these levels down here, 238 to 240, then bounce after that and trade kind of sideways. I'm anticipating that for Tesla. What about for the notorious Aapl stock? Aapl stock is still holding up. Got a nice break to the upside, a very huge break today. And we're going to be watching this resistance. It hasn't really broken too much in the after hours, but we have this level that's going to be very important right here. We're going to be watching if this thing could try to get above 182. If it breaks that, 183 is a real possibility. And then after that, we have like 184.25. So these are two levels to watch for on Aapl if we do get some kind of break. It may gap up. I think it's going to gap up with the market and try pushing a little bit higher. But then once it gets that breakout, we're going to be watching to see if it could try to hold. If it fails to hold, if it tries to break like above 182 to 183 and rejects, it could come down and retest 178 to 179 and then bounce after that and still get a decent close. But I just want to mention that it all depends on how well we could sustain these levels. So we're going to be watching it all very, very carefully. Another level to watch for is going to be this level right here, this previous resistance becoming support. We also have this like right here, technically around this 180 area. So very tight ranges on Aapl. And then below that, I'd be watching this level right here, 178.42. So previous resistance becoming support. It has some room. We have this imbalance up here, and we also have this unfilled gap at 177. So we're going to be watching these levels on Aapl. So far, it's holding up quite decently. So with that said, I went over the majority of the charts out there. I want to keep this one kind of short. Microsoft is not looking too bad. It's going to gap up tomorrow most likely. It's currently at 335 with Nvidia, so very interesting to witness. Currently, it's at 332. It reached 335 thanks to Nvidia. We're going to be watching this thing retest this area right here. Possibly 330 could be retested and a bounce after that. Overall, not looking bad. It could still gap up quite decently. Looking at just a couple of others, the dollar is down. If the dollar continues dropping tomorrow, that could be a good signal for the markets. The dollar ended up getting a rug pull, which is a good sign. And if that continues, if the trend continues, that's going to be good for the markets. Looking at Coinbase is not looking bad whatsoever. It got a nice divergence, forming an accumulation. And this thing looks like it's trying to get attracted to these $80 levels. It might push up for about 80. If it rejects off that, we could see it come back down to this breakout support at at 77.5. Then bounce off that and trade a little bit sideways. For Google, I'm expecting this to gap up a little bit. 135 is on the cards before this thing gets a rejection, retests this high right here around 132 before bouncing. But first, we may see 135. So I could see it gap up, then drop a bit before doing anything. Amazon, same thing, is trying to gap up at around 137. We were talking about 137 yesterday. If it breaks 137, you're going to be watching 138.4. So we might push up for the 138s, reject off that, come back to the breakout area at 136, bounce off that, and still close kind of green. And last but not least, for Meta, Meta's not looking bad. Got a nice breakout so far. If this thing keeps going, we're currently testing 300. We need to see it break above this. If that breaks, I would not rule out the possibility of 305 to 307. If that ends up being tested, watch for it to get a back test first. I don't know if it's going to get the breakout just yet, so it might try to get close to 305, then reject and come down to about 296, and then bounce off that and trade a little sideways. But I could still see it getting a green day tomorrow, and we're going to be watching our resistance very carefully as the market tries to break out. But remember, we've been pumping very hard with a little downside, so be kind of careful. I'm not saying the market's going to get stopped, but we're going to be watching resistance very carefully and see how the market responds to that. So watch your levels very carefully. See if we could see a move like this on SPY, where we kind of like push up a bit and get a rejection, a small drop, followed by sideways price action. I think that's very probable for tomorrow. There's also a possibility that we just keep going a little higher before we get any sort of like drop. I'm not leaning more in that direction since we push so much with little stoppage without any like downside. So I'm leaning more in this direction. And until then, I will see you guys very soon tomorrow. I thank you all so much for listening, and please watch the charts very carefully and do what you have to do. So let's see the market gap up and pop tomorrow, and I'll talk about if the market could continue breaking out or not. And we're going to be watching some key levels. All right. So great job, Nvidia. Great job to the entire team and the company. I want the best for everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Nvidia and the market to the moon, as the long term is very bright, and peace out.